you Netty fans out there. Welcome to Centre Court, all thanks to Lapine Funerals, supporting women in sport for over 125 years. I'm Bianca Chatfield, and sitting next to me every single week, Sharni Layton.
G'day, team. It's good to be here.
Do you know what? I think round 13's been my favourite round of netball for the results. All the games were that exciting to watch.
They would be, and some of the results as well. We had upsets, we had injuries, we had everything that, well, not everyone wants to watch injuries, but still a lot on the table.
It was jam-packed, so let's take a look at the results. Firebirds got their first win finally for the season.
That's me clapping.
Then we saw Lightning upset the Vixens at home, and another big one for me was the Swiss and Magpies. But we're going to get into all of those games in much more detail. And the first game that I think that we really should focus on is the Fever taking on the Firebirds. We know it's been a desperate times for the Firebirds to even get a win, and I want you to take you through some of these footage. Imelda Aiken, we saw there getting her first rebound as a goalkeeper. Pot Gita got the start in goal shooter, but Gretel Tippett, the girl just shooting that goal, has the one that she's been on fire. 30 from 30 she shot in that game. And I think we've seen her struggle a little bit with her accuracy in the past couple of seasons, and that's one thing she's really been focusing on and has really changed. And take a look at this. They get their first win. They're ecstatic. We know Fever had a tough game too. I mean, they lost Courtney Bruce earlier before the game with a respiratory problem, so she couldn't play. But still, I think that was a really good effort by the Firebirds.
Absolutely, and so great of them to take advantage of that opportunity as well. And you're so right, B. Gretel Tippett, a standout season from her in a struggling year for the Firebirds.
Yeah, now they come up against Swiss next week, so unsure how they'll go there, but hopefully, you know, they at least have a good game. Now it's time for the game that you were down in Tassie for. Magpies beating the Swiss. Tell me what happened.
They were just phenomenal, B. They rocked up from the very first whistle. Nat Medhurst was on absolute fire, breaking a record. She had April Brownlee down the other end, literally having the game of her season. I have not seen her this on fire in a long time. We also had Jiva Mentor giving Sam Wallace one hell of a time, so physical. But credit to Sam Wallace, she still had a really great game, shooting 38 from 42, but just didn't have that support around her. But that defence from the Magpies, Kimmy Rav here, they just did not let up. It was their best 60-minute performance, and Ash Brazel, MVP, so well-deserved, having an absolute ripper in that centre position. You know, the Swifts did get some ball back, but Ash Brazel just took it straight back off them to go down the other end, and they just showed that they were there to win. But I'm all about the Magpies playing down in Tasmania. They're so strong down there. They've got a really great, you know, home crowd that's loud and supports them. So I'm all about more Magpies games in Tasmania.
And we see that in AFL, don't we? How important it is for Hawthorn to play down in Tassie. They always win down there. I want to get your thoughts, though. Ash Brazel, she's been dominant at wing defence, and we've all been thinking she should be in the Diamonds team. Now, even more dominant in centre. Are we going to see her play for the Diamonds at the end of the year?
Well, as I've been saying all year, B, we should be seeing Ash Brazel play for the Diamonds. She's by far one of the best netballers at the moment, and there is now no reason, because before she was only playing wing defence, now we know she's versatile, and her feeds and intercepts are through the roof, that she should not get a gig. Well, she should get a gig, but there's no reason she shouldn't get a gig in the upcoming Constellation Cup, especially because we weren't successful at the World Cup.
Watch this space. That's 2 down. There's 2 games to go, all thanks to Lapine Funerals. Now let's take a look at the Thunderbirds and Giants game. You kept a close eye on that one. Probably the hardest part that came out of that one were all the injuries.
Oh, absolutely. It was a hard game to watch, A, because of the injuries, but B, just because of how sloppy the Thunderbirds were. They were a different team to the week before. Giants were too good, but also in that first quarter, B, way too long to call a timeout. If you're 10 goals down, the game's already over.
Sorry about that. It's a bit queasy watching these
and watch this as well. Sasha Glasgow and Emma Ryde. So officially, Sasha Glasgow having an ACL, Emma Ryde, we're unsure, but extremely unfortunate for that Thunderbirds team. As if things weren't going well enough for them, that is definitely not what you want. So my apologies that I didn't give you an advance warning on seeing those injuries then.
Oh dear. Well, another cracking game I thought was Vixens taking taking on Lightning at Melbourne Arena. It was one of those games where it was second taking on third, anything could happen. But the way Vixens started that game, they got themselves out to a 10-goal lead and they were 6 goals up at half-time. They played some phenomenal netball where I thought, hang on a minute, they're finding their best at the right moment. But in that last half, Lightning were doing the same game plan the whole way through. It just started to reap its rewards in that last half for them. Wow. Vixens just completely lost it. They stopped attacking, they stopped driving for the ball. And the one thing, Shans, that was really noticeable for me was in that first half, Vixens were going forward on their centre pass. Okay, so Lizzie Watson and Tegan Phillip were getting a lot of the centre passes. In that second half, they were going behind. They wanted the ball in the safe hands of Renee Ingles and Jo Weston. However, going behind allows the allows the defence team of Lightning to set up earlier and to allow Laura Langman to go down there and sit in that middle channel exactly where the Vixens want the ball. So I think the Vixens played into Lightning's hands by going back and giving them time to set up defensively.
Absolutely. And we both know, B, the more time that you can give us back in the circle to set up, to be able to see the ball and read it coming down court, is the more opportunity
we love that as defenders.
We'll just eat it up for dinner. It was just delicious. But, yeah, I think, as you mentioned, just, needed a bit more versatility there from the Vixens to be able to acknowledge when Lightning were firing back, and what else could they have done to be able to change that.
But Lightning looked great. Let's take a look at the Suncorp Super Netball ladder. We know first and second position could still be taken out by either Lightning or Swifts, and the other interesting part is Giants and Magpies. It's all going to come down to round 14, and that's what we absolutely love in sport. Sharni, it's now time to set the agenda. All thanks to Lapine Funerals, supporting women in sport for over 125 years. The first thing on our agenda today, I don't think we can go past talking about the ACL injuries that have happened in this round. So we saw Kelsey Brown go down. Now, again, we're showing you this footage, so turn away if you don't want to see it. Kelsey Brown went down in the Magpies game. Sasha Glasgow, Emma Ride, Sasha Glasgow and Kelsey have both confirmed that it is an ACL rupture. Emma Ride yet to be confirmed. I know she does have other knee issues as well. So here's Kelsey. And interesting to note that these all happened when there wasn't other players around. They weren't landing on other players' feet when they did it. It was actually that they were landing in space and their knee just gave away. And I wanted to update you because we had a good chat with Steve Hawkins on a podcast that I do. And he said when you look at netball from over the last 20 years, the ACL injuries are actually on the decline. So touch wood. He said that,
decline.
So back in Commonwealth Bank Trophy days, there were a lot more than what there are right now. The difference is more media attention across netball.
Of course.
And when the big name players do it, we all know about it a lot more than if it was a player that was young and inexperienced. So hopefully he's right. There's been 6 so far this season. There was only 3 last season. And we know there's a lot of focus on knee prehab, which means before training, before a weight session, you do a lot of prehab.
Absolutely.
20 minutes to get your glutes and your legs firing to protect your knees. So there is a lot of work being done.
Absolutely. And I was just in Tasmania last week doing a whole lot of clinics down there, and I'm always making sure, even for those littlies, whenever we're warming up, that we are doing that prehab because it is prone to netball, unfortunately. It is a part of the game. And I'd just like to note, so Steve Hawkins is the Vixens physio.
Former Diamonds
physio as well. So a very knowledgeable man. So I would not have thought that. So that's a really interesting note. Thank you for changing my view because I was all about is it because, with Kelsey coming back from World Cup or with Thunderbirds, is it something to do with the S&C program? But at the end of the day, there's so many variables.
That's the key, that you can't really just pinpoint it down to one. But touch wood, Sean, there's no more for the season.
Solid here, that's for sure.
Now I'm handing it over to you to set the agenda. And you want to talk about Shamera Sterling.
I do. Shamera Sterling has been phenomenal this year. She has taken Australia by storm. She is so clean in her defence, her ability, her agility to get around the body. And on the weekend, we thought that she broke the record for most intercepts ever. We thought she took it off Emily Maddox. But on the review, the statisticians have said that 2 of the intercepts that she got weren't actually intercepts. So just to clarify for everyone, an intercept is when you get two hands on the ball, there's no tip, there's no bounce, whereas when they actually watched back and looked at some footage, they found that a few were actually tips and she did pick it up, which then makes it a deflection and a pickup and not an intercept. So they took her down, not 10 intercepts, but back to 8. And so Emily Mannix, you are holding on to that intercept.
That record
at the moment. But, I don't think Shamera's going to be far off it either way because she is one of the best keepers I have seen in a long time. Well, probably since last year.
Well, let's be honest, Sharni. That is one record we both wish we were holding on to.
I know, absolutely.
But we weren't good enough.
No.
Even you, Shans, you weren't good enough.
I wasn't. It's okay.
It's now time for me to hand over to you for this week's The Analyzer.
So last week on The Analyzer, I was pretty harsh on Ash Brazel and the Magpies not being aware of the clock, but they did make it up to me this week, which I'm very impressed with. So here at the end of, I believe it's the second quarter, the Magpies, Ash Brazel gets this intercept, and what is so huge about this intercept, if the Swifts had have got that goal, they would have evened the score for the quarter and Magpies wouldn't have had the bonus point. So therefore, by Ash Brazel getting that intercept, they got the goal and they were 2 points up at the end of the quarter. So well done, Ash, and thank you for listening to The Analyzer last week. Now, moving on to this week, what I am going to be talking about is the importance of staying tight on a moving goal attack. So Joe Weston was against Steph Wood in this game on the weekend. And if you have a look at Joe Weston here, if we just pause it here, she's doing a really great job of being in front of Steph Wood and forcing her to stay behind so that she's not an option to go to. And she maintains this position as we play the footage on. Through the whole time, she's staying in between her player and the ball. She knows where they are. They're scared of Joe. They know she's there. That's why they're not throwing it to her. And although Joe doesn't get the intercept, her team does. So if we pause it here, let's remember, it's not always about you as a defender getting the ball. Sometimes it's the hard work that you do that allows your team to get the turnover. Now, unfortunately for Joe, later on in the game, I think she was tiring out a little bit and decided to sit back in the circle. But if we pause here, you can't afford to sit off a player like Steph Wood. So any players coming up against her in the finals, I recommend you stay on tight. If you step forward and off her, you're allowing her the space to run around, or you need to be on the other side to force her away from the post. By Joe being flat, her back flat to Steph, she can't see where she is, and if we play on, this allowed Steph to get on the baseline and have a shot at goal. Although for her team she misses, it's all about the defence that we were talking about in the front end. So that is my defence tip for you guys on The Analyzer this week.
Thanks, Sharni. Don't we love giving defensive tips out there?
Absolutely, we do.
And Steph Wood, I loved her confidence that she had in shooting that last goal of the game to get the win. It's now time for the nitty-gritty. All thanks to Alexis of Berwick. Experience amazing with us. And Shans, you mentioned the bonus point, and that's exactly what I want to talk about today because I wasn't a fan of it when it was brought in. I was critical. I thought what it would mean is that we'd put less players on the court because we were so desperate to get that bonus point. However, what I'm finding now, I'm absolutely loving that we have this system in place because if we take a look at the top 5 teams, it is the bonus point that's actually separating them. Look at that. Swifts are only on 9 wins, but they've got 34 bonus points. So that's putting them at second position at the moment. We see the Lightning, they've actually got 11 wins. So they should be easily sitting up top of that ladder. Yeah. But they're not. And we know the Giants and Magpies fighting it out for that 4th position is going to come down to bonus points as well. They're going to be so desperate to get them this weekend because it means so much. And so when you're watching the Super Netball games, you can see in those last couple of minutes of every single quarter, the teams, their urgency changes, their intensity changes because they're so desperate to get that bonus point. So for me, I think it's added a whole new dimension to our game and I am absolutely loving it.
And I agree, B. From myself coming from the old league into the Super Netball, when they brought that bonus point in, the games just got more intense. And honestly, I just felt like, could that level go up any higher? And it did. So the fitness of our players now is extraordinary. They are next level, and so it brings so many new aspects to the game. So I absolutely love it.
Oh, I'm glad we agree on something.
Yeah.
That was the nitty-gritty, all thanks to Lexus of Berwick. Experience amazing with their unique one-touch purchase. Visit lexusofberwick.com.au. Shans, we always end the show with this, and it's Coach Says. What are you saying this week?
So for me this week, Bianca, obviously the Firebirds haven't had a great season, but Gretel Tippett has. Just highlighting that in there. So for me, if I was Rosalie Jenke, I would be looking at rebuilding your team from scratch. She's had a few retirements now, so I think it's about time that you go out, you look at that younger generation of what's coming through and build that team for the future. I'm sick of seeing teams going out and buying their teams to see if they can get a premiership. At the moment, they can't beat the Lightning anyway, who's staying strong at the top. So let's rebuild these teams. Let's go back to old school where you have players starting with a team, building up how you play together and the combinations, because not only is that lacking in teams, but that's what's lacking for the Australian team at the moment as well. So I want to see them investing in the youngsters, letting them grow and build together, and that is what's going to help Australia succeed at the top for a longer period of time.
And for me, if I was a coach this week, what I would do is I would be making proactive changes on the court. So what I mean by is when you're in a game situation, we have the luxury of having timeouts and having injury timeouts.
Yep.
Be strategic with them. Make the changes early. Don't wait for it to be too late. And I thought, Nolene Tarua, I've said it before, what she's very clever at. Cara Conan, Steph Wood swapping all the time as who's out at goal attack, and that is what's working for them. So hopefully as we go into the finals, there's a lot of tactical changes and bringing those players on the court that can actually make a difference. Even if it's just for 5 minutes, get them out there, let them do a job and then change it however you want to.
And it just makes the other team think. It mixes up what they're doing. So, for example, on the weekend with that Lightning Vixens game, Jo Weston was on the whole game, but she had different opponents to play against, which is going to tire you out more, thinking of different things. So rather than just having that set 7 out there that they know how to play against, it is making them think.
It sure is. Centre Court is brought to you by Lapine Funerals. It's now time for us to look at what is ahead, and round 14 is going to be a big one, all thanks to Telstra TV and Nine's Wild World of Sports. That's where you can watch all the matches. Which one stands out to you, Shans?
So for me, it's definitely the Magpies against the Vixens this week. The Magpies not only needing to win the game, but needing to win every single quarter if they're going to fight for that 4th position. But Bianca, with the Giants coming up against Fever, with no Courtney Bruce again, I really think that they are going to win the game, and they're also going to win every quarter. So I think it might be goodbye for the Magpies.
And will you be courtside on the sideline for Magpies Vixens?
I sure will be, so don't look at the game, look at me. Bit of self-promotion.
As usual, you love it. Centre Court is brought to you by Lapine Funerals, supporting women in sport for over 125 years. It's been another great episode. Thank you so much for joining me, Sharni. I love your insight into the game.
I love your insight, and I just love chatting netball, so thanks all for listening.
Enjoy what's to come on the weekend, and we'll see you again next week.